Today, we are going to learn about components of a computer. What is a computer? Computer is an electronic device which accepts, processes and stores the data at a very high speed with utmost accuracy. Now we are going to study components of a computer and its working. Components of a computer are divided into 5 parts. That are input unit, CPU, output unit, primary memory and secondary memory. How computer is working. User gives the data to the input unit. Who is the user? User is the person who is working on the computer. User gives the data to the input unit through the input devices. Examples of the input devices are keyboard, mouse, scanner, etc. Using these input devices, user gives the data to the input unit. The data is in the form of human-readable language. But this data cannot be identified by the computer, because computer can only understand machine language. Another name of machine language is binary language. Input unit is accepting the human-readable data and converts it into the computer-readable data. Then the data is given to the CPU. CPU will process the data and converts it into the information. Then the information is given to the output unit. This information is in the form of computer-readable language. Output unit accepts the information from the CPU and converts it into human-readable language and gives it to the user through the output devices. Examples of output devices are monitor, printer, speaker, etc. When CPU is processing the data, it requires some space to store and retrieve the data. This storage space is called as memory. There are 3 types of memory available in the computer. These are CPU memory, primary memory and secondary memory. While doing the process, CPU is taking and storing the data from the CPU memory. Sometimes the data is not available in the CPU memory. That time, it will fetch the data from primary memory. But sometimes, primary memory also will not be having the data. That time, primary memory fetches the data from the secondary memory and gives it to the CPU. Here secondary memory does not have direct contact with the CPU. So it is called as secondary memory. Primary memory has direct contact with the CPU. So it is called as primary memory. Another name of primary memory is main memory. Today we learned the different parts of the computer. The user gives the data to the input unit. The input unit convert the human-readable data to the computer-readable data and given to the CPU. The CPU will process the data and converts into the information. Then the information given to the output unit. The output unit converts the computer-readable information to the human-readable information and given to the user through the input devices. Meanwhile, processor use the memory to store and fetch the data. These are the components of a computer and its working. This input process output cycle is called as IPO cycle. Watch the video. Read the textbook. Complete the worksheet. And practical.